Welcome back to another
To episode 2 of Mr. Magera Teaches Mrs. Magera.
history. Today we're talking about Native Americans.
Woo woo!
Yes, kind of before Columbus, a little bit after as well. So we'll be talking about that, just the Native Americans.
Honestly, I feel like I know a good bit about Native Americans.
Oh, that's a good start. That's good.
I mean, I know a little bit.
Okay, well, let's get going.
Let's learn more.
Yes, you can always learn more. Yeah. Native American communities. So before and after Columbus, there were thousands of Native American tribes in North America, like thousands of them. They were scattered all over the place. If you look at this map right here, even this map where each single name there is a different tribe. Even these tribes, though,
all of those are different tribes.
Yes, but
That's
even
crazy.
these tribes are more divided, because even if you were, let's say, part of the Cherokee tribe, that didn't mean that you were like all together. You still sometimes fought among each other. They were all very small communities.
Wow.
So there are tons of teeny small
When you
tribes.
mean small, do you mean like 50? Do you mean...
Usually about 50 to 100. They could get a little bigger, they could get smaller, but basically just groups of Native Americans like that who kind of lived in these communities together.
And this is Canada, right?
Yeah, that's Canada. So, but still, the map does a good job of just showing just the amount of different tribes there were. They're spread all across the country. Yeah, and they were all over the place. They were all over the Great Plains, the Rocky Mountains, the West Coast, East Coast. They literally spread out.
So
all
there's
over the place.
not any place that they're not any.
Yeah, pretty much. Then they would trade. They had this elaborate system of trade, and they've actually found seashells that have been seashells, not seashells, that have been traded from like the West Coast and somehow got all the way to the center of the United States to these trade routes.
Wow.
So they would trade with each other, and that's how goods could get all over the place. So
That's really cool.
yeah, 1,000 communities trading stuff all over the place. So this is before and after Columbus. Also, an interesting thing about Native Americans is they're very good at adapting to where they lived. So depending on where the Native American lived, they had completely different ways of life. And this can be seen in so many different ways. One great way is the Southwest Native Americans made their, because they didn't have trees, they had to make them out of pueblos. So they built these mud brick homes, and you can still go see it to these days. That's how long they last for hundreds of years.
Wait, this is a home?
Homes, plural, yeah.
Wow.
So they're basically just these giant buildings that connect with all these rooms together, made out of clay.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it lasted a long time. And then on the Great Plains, they do teepees. But that was really the only place they did teepees. So a lot of times when you have these views of Native Americans who kind of think, oh, they did this, they did this. Well, really, they were so diverse, it's really hard for us to nail down what a Native American did, because
it really depended on what environment they were in?
Yeah, and where you lived, what culture you are, what specific tribe you're on, even your beliefs depended on this. So very diverse depending on where they lived. They adapted to it. But one interesting thing is that Native Americans, actually, the horse was not native to the Americas. Did you know that, Mrs. McGrath?
I did not. They brought it from where?
Europe. Yeah.
So what did they ride?
So they didn't ride anything. They did all their hunting by foot. And then when the Europeans showed up, so with Columbus and after that, they would bring these horses with them. And some of these horses escaped. And when the horses got to like the Great Plains region of the United States, they flourished because there was all this grass. They could run to their heart's content. And that's when the Native Americans began to start using them for hunting.
Remember, can you imagine never seeing a horse before, and then all of a sudden you see like this creature?
Yeah, and they'd be in giant herds and stuff together because they were like, they'd become wild again after escaping.
It's crazy that they thought like, oh, let's get on top of that.
Yeah, but
when they've never done that before and they never saw anyone get on top of a horse.
Yeah, that is true, but
it's a weird thought.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so they began to ride these, but when the Native Americans began to ride these, all of a sudden their lives get a whole lot easier, because instead of having to chase down their food or walk super far to get food, they can just get on a horse and ride there. And now
it's convenient.
Yes, now it's a lot easier to get food. You can go a lot farther distances. You can meet different tribes. And so one unfortunate side effect of this is that Native Americans would become more warlike with each other. They'd start fighting each other for a lot more things. And we see all these different tribes begin to slowly disappear as more powerful tribes begin to take over and dominate different regions.
Oh no!
Yeah, so before, let's say an area where there'd be hundreds of tribes, well, whichever one became the most powerful, maybe there'd only be 20 tribes now, with like 20 really powerful tribes now instead of hundreds or thousands of smaller, weaker ones.
Shows how greedy we are, like
as humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the Europeans would get that, they do even worse.
Yeah, Europeans are.
But it just shows that this horse, which had this great side effect, right? We can get more food. It backfires somewhat too by the amount of warfare it increases, violence. But the Native Americans really did take up the horse. So that brings us to the end of our episode thingamajigger.
Your favorite part of the whole thing? Just kidding. It might not be.
It's a pretty good part.
You like it?
Yeah.
You like Mrs. Magera's tea time?
Yeah, I don't mind it.
Mrs. Magera's tea time. I'm not a huge fan of hot tea, so I do iced tea, and this is green with lemon and sugar, in case you guys wanted to know. So today,
Yes,
about
what's
Native
the
Americans.
tea?
What's the tea? So I was looking up awesome facts, and there's a lot of interesting things. But one that I found was awesome, and was that, you know, in pictures when you see, like, people going to war and stuff like that, it's always, like, men portrayed. But in some Native American tribes, the women were actually beasts. They, like, also went into war. And there was this one really famous, I cannot remember her name, so I have it written on my phone. Her name was Buffalo Calf Road Woman, and she was a member of the Northern Cheyenne tribe who fought in the Battle of the Rosebud and the Battle of Little Bighorn.
Oh, look at that.
Yes, and she actually, it is rumored that she's the one who dealt Custer his final deadly blow.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, but that's like way in the future.
Way in the future. But it just shows that women are beasts. And as we've been going through these historical things, I've noticed there's a lot of gender roles. So it really made me feel good. Like, I, woman, hear me roar. Woo! Anyway, so that's
Okay.
Mrs. That's the tea.